Not too early.
No.
The important ones are here.
There you go.
Where'd you guys get up to last night?
The Mishna Chaf
the
Beis
Mishnah.
on the days.
Mishna Chaf Beis on the base. All right, so Zok the Mishnah, yeah? Yeah, so if you make your sukkah on top of a wagon, on the top of a boat, it's kosher and you can go on it on Yom Tov. Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with going on a wagon or a top of a boat. But if you make it on top of a tree, a gabi gomel, or on top of a camel, then kosher it's kosher. It's kosher, but you can't go on it on Yom Tov, which Gemara is going to discuss if that makes it possible if you can't go on it on Yom Tov. But what it's saying, because of the sukkah, it's kosher. But you have a different issue. You can't use it on Yom Tov. Cholamayid, you'd be able to use it, but not on Yom Tov. Shtayim be'ilon, and then let's say you have two walls resting on top of the tree, not on the side of the tree, but on top of the tree. Shtayim be'ilon ba'achas b'dei adam, and one is man-made. Or shtayim b'dei adam ba'achas be'ilon, or two that are man-made and one on the tree, then it's kosher because it's not fully being held up by the tree. But you're not allowed to go on it on Yom Tov because you're not allowed to go on a tree on Yom Tov. If there's three walls that are man-made and one by the tree, it's kosher, and you're even allowed to go on a Yom Tov because, as the Mishna is going to say right now, on Talmud Aleph, because the rule is kosher yinatel ha'ilon. If you would take away the tree, it would be able to stand by itself. It's kosher, meaning even though the fourth wall may be resting on the tree, but since the three walls are not, so then it's it'll stand by itself. So then it's fine. Hold on a second, I'm sorry.
So whatever, there are a couple pounds. If you want, I assume it's fine. But if you want to check, there's a left and down. That popped off the tree down by then and was cracked. Taste that. Then there was behind the bunks over there. Like, you know, where it's like there has a piece coming out.
Jesse, good sign, Jesse.
So I put that back on. But then one other thing was over there, the bottom like 6 inches of wrestling was cracked off.
Where was that? Who keeps cracking the ones? Who the lessons? No,
it's all the old ones. It's all the old ones.
First bunch of weeks, none of this happened.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's just sorry, it's just the air vision. Yeah.
So with that one over there, actually.
Thank you, Ravarin.
My aunt used to have a good joke about that. I'm similar, very nice joke.
Well, I did what my grandfather does when he didn't have time. I piled up rocks under.
Okay, where is this?
Over there by the playground area.
Yeah.
Like right where it starts coming that way from the stage.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Probably 5 inches. So should I bother fishing around for a long one?
No, it's only 5 inches.
So,
5 inches is fine anyway.
Yeah. So my
Okay.
grandfather's always full in anyway.
Okay.
She's forget that.
I'll go check it out just to make sure.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
If you want, I could check if they have taller.
No. It's too close to Shabbos. We start messing with it, then it's not worth it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, sorry. So so that's the basic rule, that if the sukkah will stand by itself even without the tree, then no problem going in on Shabbos. Who's the Tana on the Mishna? It's Rabbi Akiva the Tanya. Somebody who makes a sukkah on the top of a boat. Rabbi Gamliel says it's possible. Rabbi Akiva says it's kosher. Ma'aseh Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Akiva. There's a story of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Akiva. Shayubayim b'sfina. They were coming on a boat. Amar Rabbi Akiva va'asa sukkah b'rosh hasfina. Rabbi Akiva stood up and he made a sukkah on the boat because they needed a sukkah. The next day, the wind blew it and uprooted the sukkah. So Akiva, where is your sukkah? Right, so meaning, I don't know if this was cynical. I don't know exactly what he was getting at over here, but all right, but basically, I mean, we know what he was getting at. He was trying to tell him, he disagreed with him and said your sukkah was not a sukkah, and the proof is that the wind blew it away. Right, so you see that our Mishna is going to Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Gamliel disagrees and says you're not allowed to make a sukkah on top of a boat. Okay, so now this next Gemara has a, what do you say?
What exactly does it mean that a sukkah on top of a boat is possible? You're not allowed to travel on a boat on sukkahs? Or what?
The
Don't
sukkah
even
is
try?
possible. The sukkah is possible.
Yaakov, how did it used to be with the Gedolim traveled for a month on a time and took on a boat? They didn't have a sukkah there?
They were traveling. Whole Pedrachim are really potter from sukkah. That's the truth. That's coming up in a couple of blot. Right? But I think because of the wind, I think that's what his issue was, the wind.
Why? And that's not considered Ruach Mitzuya anymore.
Well, in the ocean, a Ruach Mitzuya, you have to have a very strong sukkah in order to withstand the sukkah.
What if it's
in the ocean?
Right.
what if it's a boat that's not going to move, like a houseboat that's tethered?
It would just depend.
Does that
if
have the same
wind
din
can
as a
hold-
boat?
Yeah, but you need to make sure that sukkah could withstand the heat, the wind. You know what I mean?
Right, but I'm talking about a houseboat that's docked. It's the same thing as a house right by the ocean.
Yeah.
Would that have the same din as a regular boat, even though it's not moving, it's your house?
No, if it's a houseboat, it's fine. But again, it has to withstand the wind. That's the main thing. Let's see the next Gemara. The next Gemara is very negative to Farakui house, especially by the beach. Samar Rabaya. Right? If the sukkah cannot stand in a common wind, in the regular wind that's on dry land, like klumhi, then the sukkah is nothing. But if it's able to withstand the regular heat, then everybody holds that it's kosher. The disagreement is where it's able to stand in ruach matzuya of dry land. The ruach she'ena matzuya deivasha, where it's not, can't stand in an irregular wind. Right? Rav Gamliel savar sukkah diras keva, but Rav Gamliel holds you need a set sukkah. But even the yichayil lamed ruach matzuya the yam lav klum loy klumhu. Since it cannot stand in a regular wind of the ocean, then it's nothing. The kiva savar sukkah diras arriving on a sukkah is a temporary. Given the yichayil lamed ruach matzuya the yavasha kshayra. Since it's able to stand in a ruach matzuya of a yavasha, then it's kosher. Right? Meaning, even though the wind, when it's a big wind, it's going to blow it down. But since it could stay up in a regular wind, then it's okay, right? So this is the common question: can you zip tie down the schach? Right? Can you zip tie down the schach? So if the schach will stay in a ruach matzuya, then the only reason why you're putting the zip ties on there is to prevent it from when you have the major winds, which are not normal. Then you could use the zip ties. But when the sukkah will not stay in a regular wind, then you can't use zip ties because zip ties are makabel tumah, like we've been learning, right? So meaning you can only use something makabel tumah if it's not going to be part of the zip tie. You could only use it if it could withstand the regular wind. But if not, then you're not allowed to use the zip ties. Yeah, fine. Okay, bye.
Is the line of Rav Gamliel Hechan Tzukasa? He was, I assume he was using it to say the raya to him that a sukkah of Rosh Hashanah is possible. But now that we know that he holds sukkah b'inon keva, is he using that as a proof that diras keva b'inon?
Again, I can't hear you. What are you saying?
Is Rav Gamliel using the Hechan Tzukasa as a raya that sukkahs diras keva b'inon?
That's what we're saying. That's so he holds the sukkah's keva.
He holds like Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanan hold not like that. What's his raya? I mean, he wants to bring a raya, but he don't.
I guess he's having a hard time. Yeah. You done?
Looks
What's your
like,
question?
yeah.
I'm saying he's done.
Okay. Fine. Oh, Gabi Gomel. Right, or on top of a camel. Yeah, masnisan money. So who's our Mishna? R Meir, it's R Meir, the Tanya, Gabi Behema. If you make a sukkah on top of your behema, R Meir machshav review the puzzle. R Meir says it's kosher, review this says it's puzzle. My time to review. Why does the review say you're not allowed to make it on top of an animal? It says that you have to have a sukkah for 7 days. Sukkah hadru'uya l'shiva shema sukkah. A sukkah that's roy to be there for 7 days is a sukkah. Sukkah she'enu ru'uya l'shiva lo shema sukkah. A sukkah that's not roy for shiva is not considered a sukkah. Right, so therefore it doesn't work because there you can't use the sukkah for 7 days if at least one of the days you're not allowed to go on the sukkah because it's either Shabbos or Yom Tov. Right, for a mayor, so the Meir, what is he going to do with it? Really, midaraisa, you can go on the animal. The Rabbanan made a gzeira, you can't go on an animal on Shabbos. The Rabbanan the Rabbanan made a gzeira on it. So since it's only a the Rabbanan dikka gzeira, so it comes out that you really are allowed to go on the sukkah for 7 days. Yeah, fine. So then that's what that says. So that's the Machlokes. Whether you consider it's an interesting Machlokes that whether you consider an Issa Rabbanan a psul, can an Issa Rabbanan make a psul in the sukkah? Right. So R Meir holds it will not make a psul in the sukkah. Fine. Asol behema daif in the sukkah. Now, what happens if you use the behema as a wall? So now we're talking about making the sukkah on top of the behema. Now we're talking about using the behema as a wall. So R Meir paisel, Rav Yehuda Masher. R Meir says it's possible. Yehuda says it's kosher. Show you R Meir. R Meir said, "Kol davar sheyesh beruach chaim." Anything that has life to it, you cannot use it like daif in the sukkah. It can't be a wall for a sukkah. And it can't be a lechi for a mavoi. It can't be boards for wells. Meaning, when we said that in order to feed the animals for the oile regalim, so they said you could take four pieces of wood and make four 90-degree angles around the well, and that would be enough. So you can't use an animal for that. And you can't use it as a tombstone either. So you see all these things that are alive are not allowed to be used. You can't write a get for a woman on it. My time to do R Meir. So why does R Meir hold that you're not allowed to use an animal for all these things? Abaya says perhaps it's going to die. No, meaning what's going to happen if it dies? It's going to die. It's going to fall over. They went the wall of your sukkah. Reb Zera says Shema Tivra.
So then you won't use this. So then you can't use the sukkah. Just like if you have a sukkah now, if you have a sukkah this year and wind blows it down and blows your walls down, you can't use the sukkah either. Your sukkah's not kosher anyway.
Correct, but Lamais, if it falls on Yom Tov, he's not going to have a sukkah. Why? You mean just use it, and if it falls, it falls.
Yeah, just it's the same thing. If I put up my sukkah this year and if wind blows it down, so I can't use it anymore. Same thing.
Yeah, right. So the way I understood is that because he's afraid that it's going to die, he looks at it like it's not going to be there. It's not going to be there for 7 days. So Mamela from the previous Gemara, if it's not a sukkah that's kosher for 7 days, then it's a problem. Right? That's what it is. That's what I think. Right? But anyway, so we have two reasons which the Gemara is going to change these reasons in tomorrow's daf as Hashem. So Abaya says again, he's afraid that it's going to die. But Reb Zera Hashem Atira, you're afraid it's just going to run away. So the Gemara now analyzes these cases. But pil kosher, if we will be talking about an elephant that's tied up, there's no disagreement that that's going to be okay. Why? Because if the elephant dies and it falls over, it's still going to be 10 tefachim. It's still going to be the proper amount of walls, right? And it's not going to run away because it's tied up. Because if it dies, it's nevela, its carcass is going to have 10 tefachim. Kipligi, the pill, she'ena kosher, the machlokes is if it's on an elephant that's not tied up. There's no chashash, maybe it's going to die, right? Because it's going to be good anyways, even if it dies. And but the one that says it might run away, chashina, we're chashish because it's not tied up. So the Gemara says, okay, so the mandam that's afraid that it's going to die, how come he's not afraid that it will run away? Right? Meaning you always have to be afraid the animal's going to, you're going to assume an animal is going to stay right next to your sukkah the entire sukkah. Ella, we say b'pil she'ena kosher. If it's an elephant that's not tied up, kuli amalei pligi. There's no machlokes that it's going to be puzzle, right? Because that the animal, everybody has to be minded that it might run away. We're talking about with a regular animal tied up. The one that says it might die, it might die, it's going to fall over. You're not going to have 10 tefach. The mandam according to mandam that says that it's exera, that maybe it's going to run away. Like chashinan, there's no chashash because you tied it up. So then what I asked on that mandam, according to mandam that says that maybe the animal might run away. Why aren't you afraid that it might die? So we say misa lo shchicha. It's not so common for an animal to die.
What does that mean? How do you? Everything dies. Everything that's ever lived has died. What
but not in those 7 days.
Speak for yourself.
How do you know?
You're guaranteed every animal that dies within the 7 days of Sukkot?
I don't know.
The answer is no. Not every animal dies in the 7 days of Sukkot.
But what does that mean? I just want to know, Shmuel, what does it mean, the word lo shchichi? It is. It happens.
It's not common.
Everything. It happens
It's
to
not an
everything with
85-year-old
once.
elephant.
What?
It's not an 85-year-old elephant. It's a 35-year-old.
I mean, I don't understand. If I have a dog, my dog doesn't die every year during Sukkot. If you have a,
I just want what it says. Lo
I think that's what it means. I
but
think
it's
it means
a
within
guarantee.
the next.
It happens to everything. So what does it mean? It's not shchi. I just want to understand.
It's not shchiach during that 7-day period or 8-day or whatever period when the animal is serving as a wall. The animal is not the smartest animal to stick around, but it's much more likely to walk away than it is to drop dead.
I think there's a difference between an animal that is not bound and can run away versus an animal that's tied up and will die. I think that Rav Zera is talking about the difference between an animal that will drop dead being tied up versus an animal that is not tied up and may run away, and therefore you don't have a sukkah anymore.
You're talking about born free, right? So that's maybe. I don't know.
He's saying that if the animal, I hear that. I just thought, like, what's the chances of anybody dying in the next 7 days?
That I don't know. So you need to speak to Shmuel Tannenbaum to find out. What is that?
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, good. I hear. Okay, so Misa lo shricha. Gemara says v'hika rafa the beni beni. Okay, now what do you do about the space in between the animal's legs? Right? Like we learned, we said that a sukkah, we passed in a sukkah has to be more than 3 tefachim, or it has to be within 3 tefachim of the ground, which is 9 inches. So unless you have a rhinoceros, right, you're going to have more than 3 tefachim of space, maybe even a rhinoceros, I don't know. So what are you going to do with that? So again, I don't understand this. David lepahutza v'dafna. So you're going to stuff up its legs with trees and branches so that there's no space under the trees and under the legs. So it says v'dilma rava. Maybe it's going to sit down, and now your sukkah is going to be less than 10 tefachim. The masicha b'ashli me'el. So no, it's talking about where you hold it up with you take like bungee cords and you hold up the animal so it can't sit down. Now this sure sounds like a tzar bar l'chaim sukkah to me. Right, but I don't know. Gemara doesn't seem to be concerned with that. Yeah.
If he sets the stock over the animal's back, is the animal in the sukkah? Maybe he wanted his pet in the sukkah.
Maybe, but are you allowed to have a pet in the sukkah?
I don't know. If he may uses it as a wall, then yeah. This is the way
You
to
might have you might have a sukkah that you can't make a bracha in.
You want to need to know if you can smoke in a sukkah that has a tiger as a wall. Are you mutter to smoke in that sukkah? That's what you want to know.
Only if the tiger has
That's
emphysema.
smoke out of a sukkah. What do you say?
That's your question.
I can't smoke out of a sukkah.
You don't want to go soon. I have to go.
I'll walk there. Thank you.
Can you smoke in a sukkah? For those people who think smoking is a...
Why can't you smoke in a sukkah? That's one of the best memories I have of what's his name, Shalom Orlansky. We went over to his sukkah and all of a sudden he just pulled out a cigarette and started smoking. I said, now that's Simchas Yom Tov. There's no complaints. You're outside. Nobody's screaming at you, smoking indoors.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
There you go. Okay, let's see weiter.
Parrots, that was just the din of king to duru. That had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. So let's see. So according to my number, it's afraid that it's going to die. So why can't you hang up ropes and even if it dies, it'll be held up. So my answer is also like a doichik teretz. Zimnin the maikim b'pachas nishleisha samach l'schach. So what happens is maybe sometimes your animal will not reach the schach, not like you're saying Gershon with the schach resting on the animal. If you're using not only using an animal, you're using lavud, right? So it's lavud from the top of from the schach to the top of the animal, and it's within 3 tvachim. And then if the animal dies on Talmud Beis, you have a kiman demaisa. Since it dies, kapza, it's going to shrink up. V'lava daite, and it's not going to be on his das. Yeah. So that's the whole scenario. So now, but basically, what we have here is that Abaye said that R Meir, the reason why R Meir says this thing is the reason why you can't make a sukkah with an animal is because we're afraid it's going to die, right? So the Gemara asks, "Me Amar Abaye, does Abaye hold the R Meir chayish lemisa? The R Meir chayish lemisa? Rav Yehuda loy chayish. Rav Yehuda is not chayish. But now we learned in the Mishna, Bas Yisrael shenisas l'kaim. If you have a daughter, a Bas Yisrael, a daughter of Yisrael, that's meaning a Yid, not a Yid, a Yisrael. She marries a Kayan, so she's allowed to eat truma. Then her husband goes on a business trip overseas. And her husband goes to overseas. How does she know her husband's still alive? Right back then, before technology, she had no idea. Her husband went on a business trip. Maybe he died, and now she has to stop eating truma. Right? So we're not kosher for that. Yeah. So that's if we ask on that case, so what some husbands want to do to make sure that they're not aguna or whatever it is, they say this is going to be your get an hour before I die. So then, if that's the case, asura lecha b'truma miyad. She's not allowed to eat truma from the minute he leaves on his trip. Why? Why we chashed he's going to die? It becomes a get before he dies, right? But why? The first case we said we're not chashed he dies. She can continue eating truma when he's on his business trip, right? And this case sounds like he is. We are chashed he's going to die. So how Abaye was matar? It's like kasha har Meir.
Why can't you eat truma?
One of them is R Meir, who's not chayish b'misa, and har Rav Yehuda, the chayish b'misa, and one is Rav Yehuda that is chayish b'misa. Whatever it is, the Gemara's kasha is going to be. You see that R Meir, Abaye says that R Meir holds that there's no chashash misa. So why does Abaye say that when you use an animal as your wall, you're chayish b'misa? Because how do we know that R Meir is not? If her husband dies, she's a Bas Yisrael. Once her husband dies, she's no longer a kohen.
She loses the status?
Right? What do you say?
She loses that status?
Yeah, she loses her kohen status. Once he dies, she loses her kohen status. The question is, she has no idea if he's alive or not, so we have to be chashish that he's dead or not. So you have a stira in that. So we said one of them is R Meir holds there's no chashash death. And how do we know that there's no chashash death? Now we had this case a couple of times already. The Tanya is talking about, let's just do a hakdama. If somebody Erev Shabbos he gets a bunch of wine and from Kusim, and he doesn't have the time to take off the trumos and maasros. So how does he do it? So basically, what the Gemara says is, if you bought wine from Kusim, 2 lugin that I'm gonna be mafresh is truma. Asara ma'aserishin. 10 is going to be ma'aserishin because the 10th goes ma'aserishin. Tisha 9, then 9 ma'asesheni. Umeichel and he's mechalel it onto money, right? And he does this right before Shabbos or on Shabbos. And then he could drink right away. This is what R Meir holds, meaning because he holds breira. Basically, what you're doing is you're going to separate it later, and you're going to say that all this wine after Shabbos you're not going to use, right? Which we said this is nageya to this manazeh. If a woman remembers or a man remembers, in case of parrots, if you're making the challah, that he didn't take off challah on Friday night. So what do? So In Chutz La'aretz, you leave over a piece, and then you're going to be mafresh shechala from that Motzei Shabbos. But it has to work with Breiter, right? That you can retroactively decide which was separated. Either way, R Meir says that's what you can do. Yehuda v'Reb Yossi on Amud Aleph, Reb Yehuda v'Reb Yossi v'Reb Shimon Oisrin. They all three say it's usher, and the reason why they say it's usher is because what happens if you leave over, let's say 20 lugin of the wine for the trumos and the maasros. What happens if it spills on Shabbos? Let's say the barrel breaks on Shabbos. Now you didn't separate it, right? Now basically what happened, you ended up eating tevel. So whatever it is, you see R Meir is not concerned for that. So the Gemara wants to equate it and say that R Meir not being concerned for death is the same thing as R Meir not being concerned that the barrel is going to break. Whatever it is, you see that Abaye holds that R Meir is not concerned for these things. So it's a stira. So Peretz's favorite teretz, look up at Shabbos, right? Epoch, let's switch it. R Meir chayish l'misa, Reb Yehuda lo chayish l'misa. R Meir holds you chayish for misa, Reb Yehuda holds you not chayish for misa. The Tanya sola behema doifin l'sukkah, and now we have a brisa that says l'ferish that if you make a behema as a wall for sukkah, R Meir paisel. R Meir says the sukkah is pasul. Reb Yehuda machshir. Reb Yehuda says it's kosher. So therefore, we're switching the Manda Omar by how do you call it? By the get, by the kohen, the Yisrael eating the truma, right? That's the one we have to change, because this price says that R Meir says it's possible because it's a chashash of the dead. All right, we continue. Figure about 9:45, 10 to 10, Motzei Shabbos.
Shekayach.
All right. Okay. Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Which price are we switching?
Parrot, you can post the time tomorrow. My phone is broken. And Aaron left.
What time? Aaron will post it, but what time?
He left. He didn't hear. He left.
Figure about 10 to 10, I would say.
All right.
Have a good Shabbos.
Isn't this yeah.
Which price are we switching? I thought we're switching the first price in the Gemara here. The price by get. The get doesn't say any names. The Gemara, our Gemara typed up. The one was R Meir, one was Reb Yehuda.
No, but Abaye said it's R Meir, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's not an epoch. The epoch is on the first price of the Gemara on Amud Aleph. Masisa mani R Meir. The Tanya is Vasigabi Behem R Meir Machshir.
R Meir Omer.
R Meir Machshir Reb Yehuda Paisel. Where?
R Meir Paisel.
That's Chavdal Amud Aleph. Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, the beginning of the Gemara.
Oh. That's on top of the behemoth.
But that was all because of Chayish for Misa. So he said over
Which
there.
One? Not on top. Not on top.
No, by the two dots.
No, that's talking about on top of the animal.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Oh, I'm sorry. R Meir Paisel Ramaksha. Yeah. So what's the problem here? R Meir Paisel Ramaksha. That's the same brisa? No.
What?
I don't understand what's going on over here.
Yeah.
So Abaye was the only one who said it. R Meir Reb Yehuda. So there's no epoch. Epoch means in a brisa. Epoch is going on Abaye here.
What it seems.
That's not a kasha. I have no clue what's going on. I don't understand why it's a kasha to Reb Meir under Reb Meir. It's a kasha on Abaye. How can Abaye say this is Reb Meir, this is Reb Yehuda? The brisa says Reb Meir is the other way around. It's not a steer in Reb Meir.
What are you saying?
I thought it's going on this. Reb Meir Omer called over Shemer Sheish Baruch Chaim Enes Leser Reidek Nusuk Relash Lumam. All that. I don't know. I don't understand this Gemara. I don't know what's going on.
Why?
It's just. Ugh. I don't understand what stira we have here.
It's only a stira and well, there's two stiras.
Yeah. From Yain Mibein Akusim?
Yeah.
So Abaya had a raya from Yain Mibein Akusim to the Bas Yisrael, to the get case. So which way is which? Now we're saying that we have a brisa